All right, we are so excited today. Oh my goodness. We have Raschell here, and we just thought this would be such a cool video. We want to talk a little bit about ayahuasca today and the experience around that. So I'm Laura, and then so you want to say hi too.
Hi.
And then, so Raschell, if you could just give everyone just a little bit of, about yourself and your background.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a transformational coach and author and a mom and an entrepreneur. And I have done lots of different modalities to really shape and change and really empower myself over the last probably 10 years. And I wrote an amazing book called Discover Your Prosperity Blueprint, which really taps into understanding who we are, what we are really here for, and how to really live in the moment and be authentic to ourselves. So
that gave me goosebumps. I love it. I love it. That sounds incredible. I need to read your book.
Absolutely. I will share it with Laura if she wants, and you guys can always put it in the link below, or you can put it somewhere in the comments. Absolutely.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'll do that. So I'm curious. So what was it that originally drew you to that experience? How did you even?
So the first time or the second time?
Yeah. How long ago was your first experience?
So it was about 3.5 years ago. It would have been May of 2016. And I was asked by a couple of good friends who are from Colombia, who had said, "We're going to the spiritual retreat. Would you like to come?" I'm pretty open and always with the flow. So I said, sure. I had no idea what I was going to do. And in the round group session, I realized at that point, once we got there, what I was doing. And I thought, you know what? I've got no sort of preconceived ideas, because I thought, I guess I'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
The first time was a 1-day session. So it was a little bit different than the second time. The second time was 2 days.
Okay.
But the first day for me, if you know anything about ayahuasca, it is you drink a tea that is made in the Amazon, which is a combination of 2 different plants. And what it really does is it really goes within and starts to work with your emotions, work with your physical body. And that in itself, the first time, of course, you do purge. And I know the first time, did not want to purge, was like laying there going, I'm not doing this. I really don't want to do this.
Yeah, that's what I'm hesitant about, is the whole purging situation.
It's at first, it's a little bit intense, but the thing about it is it's not a typical purge.
Sure.
You know, it's different, and I guess if we're going to get a little bit graphic, it doesn't smell like, a typical when you get sick. It's the medicine. And once it's over, and you've purged, you feel really clear. It's like then the visions and then the images and the clarity start to come with you. It's like it releases what it needs to in order for you to go to the next level.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of physical pain within the body, then you will have to go to the washroom. But it's funny how the plant, as they call it, the Gaia, it allows you time. It's not like you're rushing to the washroom. It's like it just works out perfectly every time. And it's like the body knows. It's like you're connected. So that first time I had a little bit of both. And at the end of it, you have this amazing meal, at least where I go. And you feel so good. It's like you've never eaten food before. It's like everything tastes so sensuous and delicious. And again, it was sort of the beginning start of my journey. It was like suddenly things started to open up after that first week. Thoughts came through. It was a real transition for me, something I'd never done before. And at that point in time, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do this again.
I'm curious, you were talking about like the 1 day versus the 2 day. Like,
Yes.
so is there normally like a ceremony that's built in, like, or is it okay? So it just depends on like maybe how long the ceremony is then. Is that
So typically it depends on where you're going to go and do it. If you're going to do it in Peru or wherever you're going to go, everybody's different. Um, the first one I did it with a male shaman. And the medicine, again, came straight from the Amazon. It was a little different, the medicine. I was actually able to ingest 3 teas before I purged. And I was awake. There was a lot of visions, a lot of clarity, a lot of things going on. There was a ceremony before where you thank the earth, you thank the gods, they anoint you with some oils and things. They say a lot of prayers, a lot of clearing, a lot of saging to sort of get the room ready, and then it begins. And there's usually music that comes with it that really enhances the medicine as you're going through it. So it can be very intense for some people, and at the same time very sort of opening up to all different realms. Some of the stories that were mentioned the first and the second time are pretty amazing.
yeah? So do you, okay, weird question. Do you just like purge with a bunch of other people? Is that, yeah, okay, so it's like we're just doing this together.
Yeah, so I think
Cool.
you're all called, as I said before, you're called. It's either you're not or you're not. The plant calls to you, and when you go there, it's funny because you don't worry about you. First of all, if you go there by yourself, you're placed with people you have never met before. If you go there with the friends, most time they separate you because they want you to individually have your own experience so that you're not worrying about your friend, which they don't want you to do.
Cool. That's
Yeah. And they also ask that you don't touch other people because they're going through their own emotion and vibration, and to let them work through it, right?
Wow, that's great.
that's cool. That's really neat, actually. Like, yeah, that everyone, this is everyone's own personal journey, and yeah, it needs to be what it needs to be for them. I love that.
So did you feel though that there was a sense of security, a safe place for you to be able to work through these things that you needed to process, in a safe environment where somebody somewhere knew and had control of what was going on?
Yes. So the first time, as I said, there was a male shaman, but there were 2 additional people there at the same time that were going around and making sure that everybody who was either purging or had to go to the washroom was able to get up. They were giving assistance. They were taking the bags. Like, you had a bucket, and they said the bucket is your best friend, and you go everywhere with the bucket. And they would show you where the little baggies were to tie them up and throw them away. And everybody was checked on. Everybody, if they didn't see you doing anything, or if you weren't purging, you were just laying there, they would come over and say, you're going to have to come and, why don't you come and have some more tea, and move past that. Especially if an hour or 2 went by and nothing was happening, it meant that you needed to take some more in order to really get past whatever you're going through within yourself.
Awesome. So they know what's going on, and it seems like they know how to figure out that the medicine is working with the body.
Yeah, they can see it. I know the first time, as I said, I didn't want to purge, and so they came over and said, you need to come and have another tea. And I was like, oh gosh.
I feel like that would be me.
So I got up and I went over, and they help you because you're a little bit kind of feeling a little good, and so you have another one, and then you go and they help you lay back down, and you have your own sleeping bag, your own pillow, your own blankets. But the thing is, because you're in close proximity to other people, you feel safe because everybody is going through the same thing, that you feel safe and you don't feel like you're all by yourself.
Okay.
Right. So for me, and you bond, especially the 2 days, but the 1 day, you still bond with those people because you're exposing your emotions, you're exposing everything, and you're vulnerable, and everybody else is vulnerable.
Wow, that sounds so cool. Before the retreat, like, do they tell you like you need to prepare in any kind of way? Like,
So for the one that I went to, they do send you a whole email where they break everything down for you, asking you what to not eat, what to eat. So typically a few weeks before, they ask you to start cutting out a lot of animal fat, animal meat, to avoid sugars, simple sugars, and then the last week to be really clean, because in order for the medicine to really work really well with your body, not having a lot of toxicity in your body, it really helps. So being clean in the way you eat. And then it's funny, you do get hungry, but you don't. So you arrive there, you're excited, but you're not overly hungry. They prepare you with a tea, which is made from the leaves, which starts to already get your system ready. So by the time the ceremony starts that evening, which is usually sometime between 9 and 10 o'clock at night, your body is ready and it starts to take it in. And of course, as you know, the wee hours of the morning between probably 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. when it's quiet, and that's when everything kind of starts to speak to you, and you start to have the visions and the messages that start to come through, and they start to show you. One thing I will say is that as opposed to the first night, the second one that I did, which was 2 nights, the first night was all very nice images. It was very simple things. It was very bright. Second night was not so. It was a lot of darker images, a lot of things. It was almost like I was being shown, here's the light, but here's also your dark. And we're showing you both sides.
So the one that you did the 2-day, then you get like 2 experiences then? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
And what time of night or what time of day do you begin the whole process? I mean, I know you said you get the first one to kind of prepare the body, but when do you actually ingest the ayahuasca tea?
So usually the ceremony starts around 10 o'clock at night, and by the time they do the first time I said that, I think they gave us oils. The second time that I went, they gave us, it's the tobacco and it's put through the nose. They give you, for me, I don't know if everyone does this in different ceremonies, but they give you almost like it's a tobacco with the ayahuasca, and it goes through the nose and goes to the back of the brain. Yeah. So yeah. And it goes to the back of the brain, and it's like, wow. And they actually, which I really like, is they give you you can bring your own, but they give you an eye mask so that you're not being judgmental and looking at what everybody else is going through. You're closing your eyes, you have your eye mask. So you're going through your own experience without wondering, oh, what's that person doing? Are they looking at me? Because we all go within that ego brain of wondering, right? Mm-hmm. So once that ceremony starts, it's around 10 o'clock at night. It could take it depends on where you're at on your journey. It could take an hour, it could take 2 hours before it kicks in. And then if you need more, you're going to have to. For the first night that I did it, I was up most of the night. So I kind of fell asleep, then I woke back up, then I took a second. And by the time I started to go and purge and really start to experience, it was 5:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So finally at 6:30, as I start to see daylight, I'm like, oh, it's time for me to sleep, which was fine because I went back to sleep for an hour or two, got up, had some breakfast, and then went back to sleep for the afternoon. At this place, they also offer breath work, some other clearings. There's some other people there that offer you this stuff. So during the day, you're connecting, you're sleeping, and you can work with other people that are assisting in clearing some of the energy and helping you move through some of whatever you're going through.
Sounds like such an incredible experience. Yeah. When you were, first going through your purging, were you conscious that you were purging the things that really needed to go?
I felt like all the emotions that I was feeling, what I had been thinking about prior to this, I felt like it was coming out. It was just releasing it. And it wasn't a lot. It was just a little bit, but I felt when I finally released and laid back down, I felt like it was gone, like all of that was gone. And it really resonated with me in the last week, because I look at things so differently now, and the things that people are going through, and learning to, for me now, I don't take that drama or that trauma on anymore. Where I used to take it on being an empath, I would take it on and then sit with it and wonder why. Now I've just completely said that, but that's not mine. And that even goes to my children. That's not mine. And that's hard to do, as you know, as a parent, because you can see their suffering. And I have teenagers, you can see they're going through it, but it's like, the wall is divided. This is your journey. You chose this when you came into this life. This is yours. This doesn't belong to me. I will support you, but I cannot be drawn into it. And that's a big thing for me. So that really gave me clarity. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And actually, I have 2 teenagers, and I see what you were saying really resonated with me, because I'm really working with them to own their own things that they've come into this world with. And I'm so lucky to have, children who are awake and aware. So that totally resonated with me. Absolutely.
Yeah. And for me, I think that was my biggest takeaway, because I become emotionally involved. And my daughter and I had this conversation about it. And we said, as much as you feel empathy for what that situation, to be drawn into it emotionally, you have to remove yourself. So that, I think, was my biggest takeaway, is everything happens for a reason. Nothing happens by chance. And that you can either embrace what's happening and learn from that experience, or you can rebel against it and get drawn into the drama and trauma of it.
Right.
So
it continues to perpetuate that cycle.
Yeah.
So can I ask you, so you had your first experience. What was it within you that said, ooh, I want to do this again?
A friend of mine, the first one, who I've known for 20 years, had said, let's do it again. Another friend had said she'd been called to do it. She wanted to do it. And she felt that it would sort of open up things that she's never experienced before. And she's just started to become awake. So I thought, okay. And then my friend said, it's 2 days. The medicine's a little stronger this time. And so I was like, okay. So I was a little, I wouldn't say nervous, but I was a little bit, okay, what's going to happen this time? But I thought, you know what? I felt that there was some stuff still in my life that had to be addressed. And I felt that doing this was sort of that next step. I didn't feel resistance. I felt that, and everything, when everything is supposed to work out, everything flows. So the event came and it was funny, because I was supposed to go earlier in the month of October, and I chose to go later. And the one that I chose to pick, the name of the energy around it was called Heal or Heal Thyself. And I thought, how fitting is that?
Yes.
And I didn't find that out until after I had paid and after I had got all set. And I thought, oh, how ironic.
Awesome.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, and so as you're talking, it's like I'm thinking about all the inner work that I've done, and I'm thinking, yep, there's definitely some stuff here, that I know more than likely is going to come out whenever it's the right timing.
Right.
I definitely feel like it is a part of my journey, and so I really appreciate you sharing your perspective. And so I was actually invited. I'd gone to a spirit fest, and I was a host there. And I was invited to go to a retreat in Peru. I just haven't gone yet. So for me, there is some resistance, the fear of the purging and the stuff like that. What advice would you have for someone, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that, having that mentality of resistance. What would you say to those that are like me?
I think, you can go by yourself. I think it would be nice to go with somebody, so you feel, sort of, you have a connection there. I've never been to any of those places, so I don't know, but I do know from other people who have gone that you wouldn't have the same comfort. It would be hot. You would be in the jungle, or forest. You would purge, but you'd have to go off and purge into the forest by yourself.
Sure.
And do whatever you need to do by yourself. I don't know how those retreats work, so I don't know what they would have, but I've heard some great stuff. I know some of the people that were at this one actually go there and have done it and had an amazing experience. But like one of the shamans had said to me, when the plant Gaia calls you, you know it's time to go. It's like Mother Earth is calling you, and it's like it's time, because you get the calling and you feel, and everything starts to flow. You know, the payment, the thing, the flight, wherever you're going to do it, it just flows beautifully. It's because it's time. So you'll know if there's resistance and you're not sure, then maybe it's not, right?
Sure. Yeah.
This whole
It's
time
different.
talking, it's just like waves of chills, like oof.
I know. Well, Laura, you and I, we had talked about just recently about how I had received a message to a question, and the answer was, "You'll know."
Yeah.
And this week, I now know. So at the moment, I was like, "Come on, you guys, give me something I can really use." But today, now I know. So yes, that totally speaks to me. So thank you for
You're
sharing
welcome. Yeah, no problem.
So I'm super curious, going back to like, you're drinking this tea, and then does it really, the onset of it, is it like you just start getting vision, like more visions and things like that? Or how does it, I guess I'm just curious how it starts.
So you drink the tea, and again, it's individual, so it depends on the person. Usually within an hour, you'll start to feel the feeling of, okay, it's time to go. And you can actually, for me, and I know a few others, you can actually start to hear it kind of moving within your stomach. It's kind of like you can hear it going there, and and you're not hungry, that the plant the medicine's in there.
Okay.
And then you'll start to feel the feeling, and then it's almost like okay, it's time to purge, and you'll purge. And as soon as you release that emotion and that energy out, it's like you lay back down, and then it's like, now it's time for you to see what we're ready to show you.
Whoa, chills again.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so profound. Like, it's incredible. So I guess during this whole process, like, so you just like, you've got your eyes closed pretty much the whole time.
Oh, did I lose you? Yeah, there we are. Okay, sorry.
So like during the process, like pretty much you were saying like your eyes are closed the whole time. So it's just sort of like, in your mind's eye, or is there like, are there ever moments where you're like looking around into like, wherever you are in this retreat? Like, I'm just curious, like if the visual perception of everything changes too.
So every retreat can be different. I know at this one, you can bring your own face mask, so that you're closing your human eyes, so that you're able to open up your pineal, and the tea also, and the tobacco before, clears the way for the pineal gland to really have clarity. So I did have mine on for a while, and then I removed it. Of course, when you're purging, you're going to remove it. Otherwise, you don't know where you're purging. So, whoops, over there. Sorry about that. Yeah. And then you do look around, and it's dark. Like it's not like they have the music, and they have certain lights, so it really enhances the experience. But you can see other people purging. You can see other people going through their emotions. The people sit there and they check on everybody, and they invite you to come up and talk to them. I know the first night, I came up and sat with them and chatted, and we had deep discussions about my family and relationships. And so it was like very intense conversation, had some more tea. And then because the tea for me is not, it's okay, but it's not my favorite. I will give you some little sweets to kind of, help with the taste. And then you talk a little bit more, and then you're ready to go back down and purge. And then go on to the next level. So it really is up to you whether you keep it on, whether you take it off. And they didn't have it the first time with the masks, like with the eye masks. But I feel that when you are not seeing people with your visual eyes, you are more vulnerable and more open to really speak from the heart as opposed to speaking from the ego. So I found that when we did the circle and everybody had them on, it was as we were sharing what we wanted to share from our hearts, not from here. And that is more powerful because then you really open up. So,
Oh my goodness.
I hope that
more.
Well,
I want to do this even more than I felt on to doing it before. I'm just like, I'm chasing having such deep conversations. And when you were talking about, having this incredible deep conversation, sharing your story, I'm thinking internally of all the things in my own journey that I'm healing from or have healed from. And I'm just
right.
wow, this is so incredible. And I know I still have some stuff that needs to go. And the more that you're talking, you're just saying the right things to me. That's like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is it.
It's meant to be, right? Everything happens in divine timing, and this was supposed to happen when it was supposed to happen. And what I'm saying, if it's resonating, I know when I speak, I can feel goosebumps and I can feel tingles because I know what I'm speaking is truth, and I know I'm speaking is what they want me to share, right? So
feeling that too. So it's for sure, what I need to hear in order for me to confirm, yep, okay, this isn't just some off the wall desire Melissa wants to do. This is for sure something I'm being, nudged.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I'm super curious, between your first experience and your second experience, how do you feel like it shifted for you? Or do you feel like it was like just a continuation of the first one? Or how I'm just curious.
I think with the first one, Laura, I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no judgment, so I didn't know what to expect. But as I said before, the first one sort of set me on the path of my awakening and really clarity in where I was going. And it really enhanced who I was and showed me things that I didn't always want to pay attention to. But the second one called to me to go back. And the second one showed me what I needed to still overcome. And for me, that was the biggest lesson. A lot of people were emotional, really, with physical as well as trauma they had gone through. For me, it was, I understand now exactly what is clear and how I can share my message with the world and how I can move through my life. And as I said before, not getting caught in the drama and trauma of someone else's emotion, but supporting them. So for me, it was crystal clear. And that's what I came away with.
Yeah. I've heard sometimes it's hard to like reintegrate back into your life after. Did you feel that?
Yeah, that's probably why this week I have felt so tired.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest coming back from it and going straight back to work the next day. I would give yourself a day or two to reintegrate and to sleep and let the physical body rest, because it is very draining, especially if you do 2 days. Mentally, physically, you feel good, like your body feels amazing because you haven't eaten very much, you feel light. And as you know, when you fast, your body, your growth hormone goes up, your cortisol drops, and the other thing I found out, and I actually was chatting with an early childhood friend of mine who works with children, autistic children. And she was sharing with me, because she has a big medical background, that as a baby, your neurotransmitters are definitely, fully awake. And as a teenager, they're alert and awake. And when you do ayahuasca, it is the same. To watch a brain on ayahuasca, it's like all your neurotransmitters are wide awake and alert, and you are just receiving. So imagine your physical body's going through it, your emotional, and so it's it can be draining, and you have to take at least a week to integrate all of the messages, all of the physical, because I had a little bit of both, and it just starts to give clarity. It's Friday. I feel much better now. I've sort of like had that week, but yeah, to dive right back in the next day, I wouldn't suggest that. I'd give yourself a few days to move, and then by then you're feeling okay.
That's so cool. And
was, oh.
Melissa, you go.
Oh no, I was going to ask about, you know, so I'm married, I have children. Do you feel it's important, you know, to include your partner or whomever you're sharing your life with to say, hey, I'm going on this experience. If you're not coming with me, you know, please support me in whatever way, just to make it easier for you as you come back.
Absolutely. I would totally ask that. 4 years ago, I was married, and I had mentioned to my husband at the time, I'm going to do this. And he was very open to it, and very supportive. I also, this time around, shared with my children that I was going to do this again, and that when I came back, I really needed some time to reintegrate. And they were both very open to it. They were like, no problem, Mom, you take the time you need. And, you know, I mean, you still get back into the routine, but you're a little bit slower. So you can take your partner with you, or you can just ask for their support. It really is up to you. There were people there with their partners.
Okay.
So I know there was a couple there that had a 1-year-old, and the 1-year-old stayed with family, and they came and did the retreat together.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. And from what I understand from the people that run the retreat, children come and do it as well, as young as 7 and 8 years old. And as I said before, because the neurotransmitters for young children are wide open, for them, that whole shadow side of, you know, just, oh, should I get up and dance, or should I do, the kids are just like dancing and open and experiencing their experience, right? As we've talked before, Laura, when we're kids, we have no judgment on anything. We're just so open.
Yep. I love that.
How they would decide, like, how would one decide, oh, my child is ready for this? So I understand, like, an adult feeling the call, right? But like, do you know about how a child would say that they were ready?
You know what? I don't know. I know from speaking with the ladies, I don't know whose children it was, so I can't speak to that, but I'm sure there is a process, because they've done this for years, and because they actually engage in drinking the tea with all of us. They understand what it does. And also, if you go to any of the retreats in the Amazon, the children start from a very young age within those tribes of ingesting the tea. So it's just as common as drinking milk, because they're so accustomed. So I don't really know how that would work. I'm sure if you did something overseas, or you did something in a local retreat, I'm sure you could have a chat with the retreat organizers to say, how does that work for children, right? Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm curious too. So when you're, you know, back from the retreat and you're processing everything that just happened, like, how do you feel like you have to like journal it out, or do you feel like it's just like so vivid that it just like you can just re-access this experience that you had? I'm just curious, like, how it feels, you know, or like these epiphany moments. Like, I know, like, for us after the session, you know, like afterwards they call it like the door is open, and you know, you may have like, you may be tired, or you may have healing that's happening, or you may like have these like, you know, you're piecing things together that you never pieced together before. I'm just curious, like, for you, what that was like.
I journaled a little bit. I know a lot of people did journal the day of and the day after. For me, the memory is very clear both times. So re-accessing it is simple. I just go into what was shown to me, the images the second night, and the thing that I was guided to do when I was in those images is they would say, ask what it is, ask what you're showing me. Why are you showing me this? So I would ask those questions. Why are you showing me this? Why? And for me, I know, I will share very briefly, there was a second night, there was Egyptian ruins, like hundreds of pictures of Egyptian ruins. And I kept asking, why are you showing me this? Why are you showing me this? And to tell you a little tiny bit, when I have done my Akashic records, and part of that was one of my past lives, so that may be something they showed. And actually, my cat, through a girl who connects with animals, had shared with me that my cat was a spirit from before, and the cat that I have now, that I just had last year, when I came back, that animal came directly into my room and sat right on my chest and was there looking at me for like an hour, just like really intensely. So yeah, it really kind of, it really kind of connected me as to like, okay, you're trying to show me past lives, you're trying to show me things that I need to overcome. So everybody's different. Some people journal right away, some people hold that memory within. I guess it depends on the individual. I hope that answered your question.
Did you find that like the people who are ready to share were sharing with others like the day after? Is because you were talking about a little bit like, you know, I slept a little bit and then like some people were connecting and like doing that. I'm just curious like what the day after looks like.
So the day after the first ceremony? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just like, you know, like, so is it typical to just keep going until the sun comes up and then rest?
It really is different for everybody. I think for me, the reason why I was a little bit later was because I waited and didn't take the second tea until later. So my experience, everybody else was sleeping, and I'm purging. And I had two great little neighbors that were so supportive and, you know, with me. And some people shared. We did have a circle where we shared some of our experiences. And then we shared individually with each other. We sat and got to know each other. So you're sharing your life, you're sharing theirs, and then you become very bonded in those 2 days with these other individuals, because you're opening up and you're vulnerable. So some people didn't share, they didn't want to share. Some people were very emotional, they weren't ready to share, and others just shared everything.
Wow. Holy cow. That sounds like such a profound and phenomenal experience.
I know, I'm just like, so much gratitude for being willing to just share, you know?
Yeah, no problem.
Because like you said, there are some people that don't want to for whatever reason, and of course that's okay. But I think it's really important for people that are on, you know, a healing journey to know what's available, what's out there, and then, you know, just to have someone who's willing to talk about it and say, hey, this is my experience. So appreciative for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. No, I mean, if there's anything that someone can get from just a little nugget of the information that I'm sharing today to support them or to encourage them to either try this journey or to at least entertain it, for me, yeah.
And then I also just want to say, Laura and I, we've been doing some channeling together, and there's stuff about the Earth grid that has been coming up. So I just want to express gratitude for you doing your own work, because ultimately, you know, unity consciousness is dependent upon all of us doing our inner work. So, so much gratitude for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I feel like everything that we talked about today was really helpful. I mean, I didn't know a whole lot going in, and I feel like, you know, holy cow, we've covered so much. And I mean, for me, I feel like all my questions are answered. I feel like I have so much more context and, like, you know, not firsthand experience, but I feel like it through you.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad that I got to share this, and I'm glad that, you know, whatever your path is or whatever you choose to do, that it's giving you some insight as to, you know, whether or not this is a modality or something that you would like to experience.
I love this. Thank you so much, Raschell.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's so nice.
You're welcome.
You. So nice.
All right. Check out her book.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Get it on Amazon, Kindle, or hard copy, whatever you want for you.
Get Rachel's book.
All right. This was great. This is phenomenal. I love you guys.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, bye.